Hello and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jonathan Giles. On tonight's show, my guest and I will be reviewing our 1-1 draw at home to Brighton from Saturday lunchtime. And remember to check out the River Bar in Dublin City Centre for all Arsenal matches throughout the season. All are welcome to visit, including Aussie there. So sit back and enjoy the show. On tonight's show, I'm joined by my weekly guests at this stage. Our 101st episode. Sadly, Eamon missed out on our 100, but hopefully he'll be on for a 200 down the line. I'm joined by Eamon Donnelly tonight. How are you, pal?
Evening, Jonathan. Evening, Carl. I was watching the Crossroads. Donnelly was there. Then he got a new woolly hat there. It's made of wool, Miss Diane. It's got a bubble on it, Miss Diane. Yeah, we're all right. We're all good. Good to be back on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, Eamon. I hope you looked back on our show last week. Quite a few nice memory reels Martin found over the last 100 ones. So it's amazing to get to 100 episodes. But thanks to everyone that listens to and watches us on the Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel and on Spotify. And for any comments that have been left, it's much appreciated. At least we know we're doing some sort of decent job like Arteta there. So there's a plan in place to believe in the process. I'm also joined by our Northampton-based gooner in the UK, Carl Ozzy Osborne. How are you, Carl?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. Yeah,
it's good to have you on, Carl.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. Missed Damon on the show, didn't we? Last week, he wasn't the same. He's like we was missing a key midfielder. So we're going to talk about that later.
My shoulder.
Yeah, there's definitely the resemblance of Mikel Merino. I think it's more Berta Moretti than Mikel Merino, but we'll be discussing that later on. Yeah, so there's plenty to talk about after a busy end of season, end of window, I suppose, transfer deadline day. But there'll be plenty of time to talk about that later on in our next show. But on our review show this week, we'll be talking about the Brighton draw that happened on Saturday. Lunchtime, 1-1. Kai Havertz scored an absolute beauty of a lob over for Bruggen. I was thankfully in the Emirates for it on Saturday, right behind the goal in the clock hand. The speed of Havertz when you're actually at the match, you don't realise how quick he is, but good Lord, he got onto that ball and the confidence he's shown to lob the keeper, and he was reeling off in the celebration before he even hit the back of the net. If that was this stage last season, it would have went up and over. He would have been turning his back. But the speed of him is just quite incredible when you're when you're actually at the match. You don't realise it from the telly. I thought he had an all-round good game, considering we were down to 10 men for the guts of 40 odd minutes in the second half. His hold-up play and the way he can take the ball down and lay it out. You know, that's such a big improvement, I think, over the last season or so. Of course, Brighton got the equaliser, superb save originally from David Raya, and Pedro, who's had a pretty decent start to the season. I think Pete Baker, who was on our previous show last week, probably agree. He kind of a type of striker, wouldn't mind that Arsenal, quick in the box to pounce on things. Bit annoyed with the celebration running over towards our fans. You know, it could have turned nasty, but look, that's what opposition players do. I think more the annoyance was 10 minutes before that, the Declan Rice second yellow card. The first yellow card probably was deserved when you look back on it. It was a bit of a reckless challenge. But the second yellow card that resulted in the red, which he'll miss the Spurs game, I thought Chris Kavanagh was a disgrace on Saturday. If anything, I think Feldman should have been given a red for what he'd done on Rice going in on him. You know, it was a mere tap of the ball. You know, it definitely didn't deserve. I thought he shouldn't have even gone over near that. But I think after that, in my opinion, I think Chris Kavanagh lost the plot. You know, I don't know how many yellow cards we got, 5 or 6. You know, any tackles we were making, Brighton were getting frees. Another one that I'll point out, Joe Pedro, kicked the ball over where Arteta was, never got a look at, you know. I don't think he, in my opinion, shouldn't referee another Arsenal game again. That's not just being boys because it's an Arsenal show. It just, that red card ruined the game, you know, and that it was just backs to the wall. But Saka had a great chance, I think, with about 15 minutes ago. The ball that was laid into him, I think it was from Havertz, and he just didn't get a proper connection. I think it bobbled in front of him, and he just didn't have the power to put it past Brogan. But I thought, as a whole, Todd Ray had another good game. He made a few good saves near the end with his feet and his hands. His reactions were just incredible. Just when you're at the match, you just see what a great keeper he is. Solid. Reminds me of a David Seaman and Jens Lehmann. Just so calm coming out for crosses and the quick delivery when he gets it. You know, you can see the whole pitch. You know, it's a joy to watch. I think when you're at the Emirates, it's just such a special thing now when you're watching the Arsenal now, you know, under Arteta. But Gabriel and Saliba, solid again, putting their bodies on the line at the end when shots were flying in from everywhere from Brighton. Hats off to Ben White. I thought he kept Mitoma pretty quiet on the wing. Mitoma was a tricky player, tried to keep cutting in on him, but White got back the whole time and put his foot in when it needed and stopped a lot of crosses going in. But I thought, you know, with Declan Rice, he's kind of outrun by Morgan Rogers kind of last week in midfield against Villa. You know, he's played nearly every game now. He played every game, the Euros, nearly every game last season. And, you know, maybe starting to feel it a bit, but I definitely don't think he deserved that red card. But that's my kind of take on the match. I'll come to you, Eamon. What you're taking the game?
Okay, well, I'll try and be as brief as possible. There's a bit to get through. Most of the analysis centres on one incident because that incident dictated the result. So let's start there. I'll deal with that in a second. We started very brightly, created a few good things, but I think a turning point in the game before all of that stuff was the whack that Odegaard took. He wasn't the same after that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't at it because, you know, okay, there was a bit of a follow through. Your man could have broken his leg had he followed through at force. In fairness, he did pull it. He did pull his force back. He won the ball, and when he saw he was going to connect to him, he did ease off. So, you know, it wasn't the Brighton player's fault, but it was a heavy whack, and Odegaard he couldn't do really anything after that, and that we lost control for about 15 minutes. We scored lovely goal, great piece of improvisation by Saka to get Havertz into the position he got. Great finish, great goal. We got back on top. We were totally in control. We'd have gone on and won the game. I've no doubt about that. Right? The shape of the team is still a bit wrong. We're missing a left-footed player on that position where Declan is playing, where Granit Xhaka had been playing, because the angles of passing is different. I can see Declan trying to get Trossard through. You know, he's got to turn his body. It's a bit more difficult. And I think that's why Mikel Merino was bought, to be honest with you. And it's just an awful pity that he's out for a few weeks. But I think Arteta was very sanguine about that. We didn't buy him for 4 weeks. We bought him for 4 years. So, you know, we've got to take that on the chin. So the decision that changed the game, that was a great decision. It was a great decision by Chris Kavanagh, I thought, you know. And the reason why it was a great decision is that he's a referee, and if you want to put referees center stage and keep them as celebrities in this flying circus now that is PGMOL and the Premier League, well, then that decision is stardust because it keeps the referees at center stage. So in each of the 3 weeks that we've had games, the referees have been center stage through the controversial decisions they make. So when I say it was a great decision, it was a great decision for the circus that is refereeing in the Premier League, right? So let's just talk about the letter of the law for a second, because I heard some people say, well, why the letter of the law? Okay, the letter of the law applied well, then for every corner kick, there'd either be a free out or a penalty. If the letter of the law applied, because everybody's fouling each other. But no, what happens there is, in those situations, the referee applies a bit of common sense and discretion. So let's talk about, did he have discretion on Declan's second one? Of course he did. The same discretion that he exercised when João Pedro booted the ball across the pitch at the stop was taking a throw in. So he had discretion available to him. So I don't want to hear anything about the letter of the law. If you want to be really technical about it, the ball was rolling and you can't restart a rolling ball. So, you know, if you want to do the letter of the law, there's all sorts of levels you can do that. I think a sensible way to look at this would be, if you look at the Ben White, John McGinn incident the previous week, the referee just told them to cop onto themselves.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And here's what I mean about the flying circus. If the referee had gone to Declan Rice and said, Declan, cut it out, you know, don't push me on this now, right?
Yeah.
And just got on with the game, would anybody be talking about that? No. Would the referee be center stage? No. Right? And then you get this gobshitery of Pigmall saying, well, yeah, he's gone with the letter of the law. He's given him no choice, da. But then on the other hand, if he just has a word with him and leaves the goal, they'd say that's sensible refereeing. So they just protect the referees no matter what. And I have to say, and you can see I'm being animated about this because it really did. It cheated the supporters. That decision cheated the supporters. Supporters who are paying money to go into the game, they don't. Supporters of any team don't go in to see 11v10. That's not the game. The game that we know and love is 11v11. And sending people off the pitch should be a last resort. Now, are you seriously telling me, or is anybody seriously telling me, that the last resort, that he had absolutely no choice other than send Declan Rice off? I can tell you this, no other league in Europe, Declan Rice would have been red carded. No other league in Europe.
But right? What do you make Sergei aiming for cutting across? The incident with that, Joel Vampman jumped into Declan Rice. He could have even seriously injured him. Do you not think the linesman on that side should have kind of even intervened and says, hang on, I'm after having a look at this myself. I don't think, I think it's more, 50-50. Let him, yes, you said, let him away. And if he makes another challenge later.
That man was, he was playing the professional game. He was trying to get Declan sent off. I don't necessarily blame him for the whack, because technically he would have kicked the ball only for Declan had moved away. So I'm not altogether animated about that. What I'm animated about is that people say Declan Rice gave the ref a decision to make. Well, what the bloody hell are they there for, only to make decisions? That's why they're on the pitch, to make decisions, right? And he made the wrong decision. It's an absolute disgrace. But look at
ruined the game. Yeah.
All I say is that players should be sent off when there's no other avenue open, and that was not the case. And I just say, somewhere around Disneyland today and yesterday, Mickey Mouse is walking around with a Chris Kavanagh watch on. Okay, that's all I say. Right? Now, a couple of other things about refereeing. They have an edict now, let the game flow. And I'm not just about the game on Saturday. Does let the game flow mean that Bukayo Saka can be clumped all over the pitch? Because that's what he was. He was clumped all over the pitch. It was absolutely disgraceful, right? And then I hear some other wise ass saying Saka was too honest when he didn't go down in the box after the Havertz chance, and when it was saved, and it came out to Saka. Oh, if he'd have gone down, he'd have given the referee a decision to make. Oh, he should have gone down. He was being too honest. I mean, what way do you want it? The guy was getting kicked all day. And I'll tell you what about Brighton. They're very impressive. I think them having Milner go off did them a favour, because he's passed, right? And if Milner had stayed on the pitch, we could have brought on Jorginho or something like that, whatever. But because they had two young athletic lads in the middle of the pitch, you couldn't do that, right? But look, I hope when Brighton go to Man City, right, that they display the same brazenness, right, rather than just roll over and die that most teams do up there and put up the surrender flag. They came out, they tried to rough us up. I didn't think we handled that particularly well. But with Chris Kavanagh on the pitch, sure, if you know, God knows what happens. Anyway, look, it is what it is. I think if you look at the Thomas Partey yellow card, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And then you look at the one that Hinchelwood didn't get in the first half. Yeah. When we're going into the box and he's pulled them back.
Yeah.
It was just an absolute disgrace. But anyway, for their goal, I know we were a bit all over the place because of the sending off. And the sending off had an awful effect on our shape for about 10 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a long time since I've seen Gabriel and Saliba stand so far apart. I mean, if you're allowing like Lewis Dunk to pass the ball through, that's not good, right? They're normally much closer together, but I think it was because of the whole chaos that the sending off caused. We were a bit of this and a bit of that. I thought, we handed them that goal. I've heard some criticism of Thomas Partey for not tracking back. Thomas Partey at that stage was playing on his own in the middle of the pitch because Odegaard was done. And Partey, in fairness, I thought Partey, he really put in a shift. Okay, he lost the ball a couple of times, but he didn't stop trying. And then we got ourselves back together. There's no doubt Mikel Mourinho would have come on in that game. We got ourselves back together. And I thought we were quite impressive in two things. One, the way we were very, very resolute. I thought Calafiori was terrific. Yeah,
he showed a bit of passion in that game, yeah.
And B, even though we were hemmed in, we fashioned 3 winning chances, right? The one that Havertz did brilliantly to get across, the Saka. There was another one. Oh, yeah, the one that Havertz and then Saka didn't go
down.
He
made himself, yeah.
But also, I don't know, not anybody's talking about this. If Odegaard had been himself, he'll put Calafiori clean through and goal.
Yeah.
I don't know whether anybody saw that. He misplaced the pass. If he gets that behind the defender, our boy is gone, So look, these things happen. Let's hope this is our Newcastle. I think every team gets a bummer game off a referee at some point. We were done on Saturday. We didn't lie down. We could have lost the game. And the best thing about Raya all day was, apart from the saves that he makes, and I'll finish on this. I don't look at any crosses coming into our box worried. He was terrific under the high ball. You were at the game, Jonathan. You would have seen that,
He was solid.
Yeah, you could see he was itching to get on, and when he came on, you can see he's well built. He's physically well built. Very strong lad, and he's putting his body on. He's making a nuisance of himself.
And the last thing, this is not a criticism of Martin Odegaard, who's fantastic, but he just wasn't in the game on Saturday. The one thing that he did do, he did that sidewinder thing. He has the longest arms in football. He goes to the crowd like this, and then all of a sudden it's on his arm. But he definitely got the crowd up,
Yeah,
his arms.
It's like a helicopter.
It is, yeah. Very impressive.
Yeah, I say Michael Stipe be quite proud of you there, the sidewinders.
I think I'm about to dislocate my shoulder doing that,
Jason, I hope that's not a fracture.
Probably how Mourinho got injured.
Yeah. We can't have you off the show, Eamon. I can't have this.
That's my take on the game anyway,
Hey, I guess you're man of the match, Eamon, before I come to Aussie.
I was thinking Thomas Partey because of he had a poison chalice in there. He was in there on his own, and but I'm actually going to go for Kai Havertz.
Yeah,
because
his work rate.
Again, he was terrific, and every time we got out, it was because he'd made a run into an intelligent position. He was brilliant on Saturday,
Just before I come on to Ozzy, what I liked about him as well, he was being wound up by Danny Welbeck, but he can give as good as he gets. He is a wind-up merchant as well, Havertz. You know, yeah, he acts the innocent, but he knows he costs himself. But what I love about him though is he's really got himself fit. You know, he's even fitter, I think, than last year. His pace, leading the line on his own. He is now. I think he's Arteta has completely revived his career. It's just amazing in one season. He's worth the money and more. You know, I think it's a bargain we got there, and I think Matt Bourne hit it on the nail at the start of last season. We haven't seen the best of this lad. So when Matt does come back on, yeah, it's kind of Bear Moretti for myself and Eamon. I know, Ozzy, you were at the match like myself on Saturday, and as Eamon said, the red card really did kill off so early in the second half. You have a great seat. I've been in it myself. What was your take on the whole 90 minutes, Ozzy?
Look, I just, from what I say, Eamon's covered a lot of ground there, but the first half, Arsenal were in control, weren't they? I think we looked balanced. I think there was still the occasional sloppy pass in midfield, and I won't just have a dig at Partey for that. I thought Odegaard and I thought Declan Rice were off it. And a few of those challenges we saw and a few of those yellow cards were a result of poor touches. And I just felt our midfield weren't as slick as they have been. But early stage of season, is it that? Is it a bit of fatigue? I don't know. But they've got a break now, aren't they? I think just looking at I don't know about you, Johnny, but I didn't feel like the first half we was at risk, really. I thought the goal felt like a goal was inevitable, and it felt quite comfortable. And we talk about the second half and after the Declan Rice. I'm not going to say too much about that because I think Eamon covered it spot on. There's just one thing I want to add to that sort of referee debate, but I think from the chances we had in that first half, that game could have been. I felt we lacked a little bit of conviction in front of goal. I think when you had that Saka chance where Odegaard chipped it over the top. Normally, he's blasting that. He kind of side-footed it, sort of placed it into the keeper's mid. A confident Saka. Well, not say confident Saka, but you'd expect Saka to hit that with some venom and put something into it. And also, when Trossard crossed into the box, do you remember Odegaard arriving and he sort of again side-footed it in? It was quite a weak shot.
Yeah.
They were two very good chances that we had there, And I think on a normal day, like they'd have made the keeper work a lot harder than they actually did on that day, or if not score it. I think something we haven't talked about as well is this, and I'd like to know people's views on this, but the Ben White shot that hit Lewis Dunk's arm. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen that at all? Like, I think that's not been in the media. The fact that Johnny, you give me a blank face there. Says to me, you haven't seen it. If you Googled it while I'm talking, you watch Lewis Dunk's handball. That was going goalwards, and it clearly hits the arm. It's pretty poor angle.
Charles, his arms are out,
Yeah, it's not a natural position. I don't think that personally, but I thought the way the media coverage really skipped over that. You should really if listeners haven't seen it, Google it because it's all over.
It's something. I tell you, the second half, it was such. After that red card, when you're there, everything does get such a blur because they're so angry.
This was first half. Like Johnny, I don't know. Like if you've seen it in the clock end, like I'll give you my view on it at the time. It looked like Ben White was going to shot, and it went a lot wider than it should. There's a reason why it went a lot wider.
Actually, it's coming back to me. I was wondering why it went so wide. There you go.
Yeah. You know what I mean? The ball was going goalwards. It went wide.
Dunk can be very annoying as well. I thought him and Veltman really wound us up, and they were looking for our players to be booked. And I didn't, as Eamon says, I like watching Brighton, but I thought they were. I do agree. Another thing with Eamon said as well, sorry, Ozzy, I don't think they'll go to Man City and do that. Them type of. I think they'll roll over, like most teams do. Yeah.
Let's just see what happens. But
it is. But
when I look at those chances, that Ben White shot, we had the cracking finish from Kai Havertz for the goal. Saka did great. Showed a lot of strength in that winning that ball as well to get that across to Havertz. Great finish for him. And but when you look at that, the dunk handball and the two chances that Saka and Odegaard had, I think really. It could have been a lot more comfortable, but it is what it is, right? We went into half time and feeling pretty happy about what had happened. I think, as Eamon said, rightfully so, the shift of momentum after the Declan Rice set it off. I also put in my notes a bit of common sense was needed there. I think, and this, I'm going to talk about the referee bit now. I'm not going to go into the level that detail that Eamon went into.
Yeah, I'd like to know your opinion on.
For my opinion on it,
Chris Kavanagh's performance, Ozzy.
It was absolutely terrible, right? And I think anyone that was in that ground says that. And I spoke to 2 Brighton fans in Paddington Station when I was heading off, and they said exactly the same. Like, but they had watched the replays in the pub afterwards. Like, you've seen the replays yet? We got away with that. Like they but even the Brighton fans I was speaking to, sort of said, it was a disgraceful performance. But for me, like that common sense approach, that John McGinn incident, that was common sense. And I think we need to applaud referees when they make a decision like that, John McGinn, because he smacked the ball into Sleever, Ben White hit it into McGinn. Have a word with them both, move on. Let's for the interest of the game, let's keep that game flowing. But this, for me, is just another string of events that's happened to not just to us, but to other clubs. And for me, something's got to happen. Something's got to happen in terms of these referees have got to be held accountable. Make them face the media. Make them face the questions. Bring them out there. And I'll tell you what, give them praise when they do, like they did with the incident with McGinn and Ben White. Praise them up for that. Give them the limelight they so desire, because they clearly do. But give them that. But when they make decent decisions or a bit of common sense, and it's good for the game. But Chris Kavanagh's all over the Talk Sport, papers, media, social media, and like you say, he's in the limelight now. But ultimately, it was his face when he was given that yellow card. He's like, "Well, don't blame me. I've got to give you this yellow card." Well, actually, you've got discretion, right? You're a referee. You're in charge of that game. Apply some discretion. Apply some common sense. And I think actually, he'd have been praised more about it. I hate if I'd heard letter of the law. I've heard it 3 times on this show. It's probably 4th time this show. I've heard it. And if I had £1 for every time I've heard it, Johnny, I'd probably be able to afford a pie in block 3. But it was I've heard that so many times by different pundits. But I think the most logical pundit I've heard talk about is Gary Lineker, I hate to say, who's actually had a really decent, even on his podcast, I thought he made a very good. He's a bit of common sense here, and he's sort of fighting what me and Amy said. Anyway, enough about that. But it did change the game.
Yeah,
I think, straight away.
Those type of poor decisions, when it comes down to the end of the season, that could be the game that could cost us.
Absolutely, we can.
It's no
different than a Brentford game, when we talk about that Brentford game that time, and and the foot, we might be talking about this at the end. It's a long season. It's 3 games in.
Here's another thing, just before Eamon comes in there. Managers get the brunt of it when they comment on decisions from referees like that, but don't dare comment on a referee's bad decision. The manager always seems to get the criticism when he's making a fair point, and I think, as Eamon says, it's getting more and more annoying. You don't see City players get any of these decisions. I'm not just saying that as an Arsenal, but it's always just seems to be us. Any dirty tackles made by us, in the years past, if Saka made a bad challenge, you have to send him off. It's just so annoying.
Look, I'm sure the way Mikel Arteta is and the way this team of players are, you can see the hunger to not lose the game, right? But the way they are now, they'll get over this, right? And they'll move on. But here's what I'm going to say on it, purely from a technical level. The one player we couldn't afford to lose was Declan Rice. And the reason being, because Odegaard had taken a whack and was off it. Thomas is 30 years of age and doesn't have the ground coverage that he probably would have had at a point. And then if you look at our bench, the choice was bring in Georgie, who wouldn't have been good against 2 20-year-olds. I was nearly kind of thinking, do you know what? It's a bit early in the season, but Eto'o Nwaneri might have been an option there, just to get some physical running power into the midfield. Because if we'd have had Kai Havertz sent off, good and on as he was, or Gabriel sent off, we could have coped with that from the bench.
Yeah.
But the one player that we couldn't cope with being sent off from the bench because we were a bit light. If Mikel Merino had been on the bench on Saturday, the game wouldn't have changed as dramatically as it did with the sending off. But in fairness to the team, it only changed for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we started finding a way to create chances again.
That leads me on perfectly, Eamon, right? That's what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about that goal very quickly. I thought Gabriel could have been stronger in that. I'll just put that out there. But talking about that game plan and when we changed, so you know where I sit, Johnny. You know I sit right behind the Arsenal bench. I've got a good view of tactically how we can set out. I don't know if this was immediate. I don't know how immediately obvious it was to you set on the clock end from being there. But what I did know, watching on TV, actually, is a very good point. But what I noticed with our team is we made a decision, and it was coming clearly from the bench to sit back and counter. Yes. That's what we decided to do. And it was very obvious because every time their goalkeeper got the ball, whether their fullback got the ball, our players dropped back 15, 20 yards. All of them dropped back as a unit,
them,
right?
You could see
it and they were basically just holding back. So the clear game plan was then, right, we're going to counter. This is the only way we're going to do it. Now, I looked at that team and I thought, they put Martinelli on to give a bit of pace in there, didn't they, to try and make that more effective. But actually, it nearly paid off because the two chances that we had then on was Havertz breaking. And also, then it was Havertz breaking on the right. Havertz made that chance, by the way. I know people criticising for missing that one-on-one. He made that chance. But it was Havertz breaking, yeah?
It was, Ozzy, but we went long.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with going long when you have to. But the point I'm making is that the burden in midfield, let's say good and all as Havertz was terrific. If it had been Havertz that had been sent off, you could have said, we're not going to be light in midfield, and we'll be able to do that kind of 10v11 from a kind of a higher starting position.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the midfield,
That's what we were doing, We were sucking up the pressure because it did feel like that. I don't know how you felt watching on the TV, whether you felt like they were just like I was saying to the guy next to me, we're like a sponge. We're just taking on that pressure, and then the minute we can get it out, bang! And this is why I've nearly give Raya a man of the match because his distribution was absolutely on point.
Trying to start
because we don't talk about that too much like you today. So I thought Raya was close to man of the match for me. Purely for his distribution, but Havertz was creating havoc. But those chances, any other day, again, it's that conviction we talk about. I think Havertz, he just when he was through on goal, he created that chance and he hit the target. I think Saka probably could have done better with a rebound, but it is what it is. And then with Saka's chance, I thought that was a great chance. Like I think again, normally.
He was kind of stretching, wasn't he? He just wasn't going to get that power, just to put it, I thought he was just stretching a bit further, but he
late in the game. He looked a bit leggy at that point. I think he could have, and the amount of running he was doing, I think if that happens in the first 10 minutes, I think he puts that in the back of the net, if I'm honest.
100%.
But Raya, I thought again was crucial. Like he did a great save where he got up quickly.
Would you be critical of Mozzie for the goal?
Who?
David Raya.
Not really. No. I thought he done well. He done well to save it. It's hard to catch a ball these days anyway, with all the way it is. But what I was the only critical thing I say of the goal was I thought Gabriel could have been stronger against Minter. I thought he could have been stronger there. He looked a bit. I think it was a bit easy. When I think if it had been Saliba, I don't think it'd
I know we need to wrap it up, but I have a theory on that though, Carl. I think Gabriel wasn't as strong as he normally would be because we were already down to 10. And I think he was fearing that if I'm strong and this goes wrong and I make a foul, I'm off as well,
I thought the two of them put their bodies on the line, especially that 10 minutes or so. Gabriel, he got one in the face near the I think
I'm not being critical of him,
Believe, I think his name is, in the Brighton midfield. He's a young lad. There's a lot of energy there, and a year who came on for Milner's Eamon said the best thing happened to Brighton was actually Milner going off because it gave them that energy.
It did. But I'll cover them off points anyway.
I was really impressed with Trossard, though. I thought the balls into the box he was putting in the fourth. It was just missing that, number. Just that last person just ahead of it. His deliveries were really spot on. Yeah, I couldn't really, to be honest with you. I know the red card ruined the game, but I couldn't really fault the Arsenal team. I thought we gave it everything we had. They gave, as Eamon says, they're hungry, and you could see they were hungry to get even a winner. Where other years, if that happened down to 10 men, you would say, "Jays, we're gonna lose 2 or 3-1 here." This is how strong this team. I thought Timber had a very good game, and even when he went in the middle for some of the second half,
Looks a bit leggy, didn't he? Just looks a bit leggy again. But say California came on and he looked great as well. Look, the way I've made peace with this, Johnny, is I took a point at Villa. And I don't expect us to beat Brighton. So it's just
Carl,
I'm joking.
Carl, you and I were born in the same raft, mate. They just sent yours over to the UK and sent mine over to Ireland,
But that's the way I look at it. That's how I make peace with it, right? Everyone, because I saw a lot of meltdowns going on. We've dropped 2 points. That's it. League over.
I think that's a point gained than a 2 points drop. Yeah,
I took a point at Villa all day long, right? And certainly the way we played at Villa as well. I know we're not covering that now, but I took a point. So the fact that we've got a point at 4 points out of these 2 games, I'd have took that off your hands 2 weeks ago. So yeah, let's take it out.
Who was your man of the match, Ozzy?
It has to be. It was between Raya and Havertz for me, but I'm going to go for Havertz just for his causing that havoc. But Raya a very close second because of his distribution was absolutely fantastic. And if he'd have caught that ball, I'll give him man of the match.
Yeah, we can't have it every way. But I'd only give it to Kai Havertz for his tireless work rate all game, but particularly for that lob over Brogan. That's another goal now against Brighton. Sorry, three in a row now. They won at home in last December. The goal in April, and now another one, a hat trick against Brighton. But he's impressing me more and more. I have to say now, when you see him live, geez, he's a different, he's a gem to have, really is. Yeah, it's amazing how your views change as seasons go on. But I'll give mine to Kai Havertz as well. Before we wrap up this review, I'm going to name and shame people now for their predictions last week. I know I went with 2-0, so I was a bit off. Ozzy 2-1, you said.
I went 2-1, yeah. Of course I put a bit on it. I know. When those chances came, I knew one day.
Martin Stumble that edits the show, hold your head in shame, 3-0.
Well, I wasn't on the show, but I would have went with 1-0.
And I'd like to say to Ian Gunnery, once again, he's got another.
Everybody listen to me, Jonathan. Everything will be okay.
No, every time Eamon gives a prediction, he's a Joan and we don't win it. So you're done right by staying off our 100th episode. No, look, we're in 4th position. 1 goal conceded, 7 points, and we're very much going to be in the mix. I think it'd be fair to say. Brighton probably, I think a draw, I suppose, after the red card was probably a fair result. They really, they gave as good as they got as well. And I was talking to Pete at the end of the game on Saturday. He says they got out there. He thought Saka should have really got at the end and finished that for 2-1. But he even said himself, "No way, that was a red card." So it's a refreshing to see Brighton, away fans being realistic.
The Brighton fans were good fun on Saturday. Can I just say that? There's a few of the pubs that I was in afterwards. And I went to a different area, which was quite far away from the ground, but they were all good fun. It was nice banter going on. It was a good laugh. Yeah,
the Seagulls, I hope they have a good season. They have a good manager in Hooser. You could see it. They were set up really well, and I can see them, if not challenging for at least Conference League football next season. But the best of luck to them. We hope to have Pete on for the return match later on in the season. I'd like to wrap up the show, the previous show for the Brighton game. Thanks to Eamon Donnelly and yourself, Carl Ozzy Osborne, for coming on. The show on the Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel and also on Spotify. So until the next show, thanks for listening.